everybody? It's December the 22nd, and you know why you're here. So let's kick this off, right, and introduce the players. Hey, I am Gerissar, a PvP Padawan, and Andalin wasn't able to make it today, but that's okay because we have Smexxin, otherwise known as Nick, joining us. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
I am pretty excited. I can't wait. I've been wanting to talk Warriors with you for so long, and finally
And
we're able to make it work, and I'm super excited about it. Warriors are dear to my heart. I loved playing my Warrior during WoD and Legion, and just yeah, excited to have you here, and we get to talk about Arms Warriors and everything that makes them tick now in Shadowlands. Now that they're
no Fury Warrior? I'm just kidding. They don't exist, man.
that's not true. This is. Uh, well, it's actually a good point you bring that up. So, because Fury Warriors were looking pretty strong, if I'm not mistaken, in the beta, but then they just didn't quite work out, and that's always been the way in PvP because Fury Warriors because they don't have the Mortal Strike, they seem to not quite work out well.
hmm
So it seems like Arms Warrior is always the PvP spec, and Fury stuck to the PvE spec. Although I think Nally might disagree with me on that part. She does enjoy playing her Fury Warrior PvP.
Yeah, I think Arms is just better in everything nowadays, unfortunately.
True, true.
Even in PvE, at
That
least on meters. But I
yeah,
enjoy playing Fury a ton too, personally, so I'm kind of hoping that something happens.
yeah. I Fury Warrior just always felt much more enjoyable to play, but yeah, Arms was the PvP spec, so
Yeah.
it's yeah. I do enjoy leveling in Fury though. Fury is it's just so fun,
I
especially
enjoy Fury way more PvE for sure. That's what I leveled as well.
yeah. I can see that. Well, hey, before we get too far into the show, and I'm sure everybody who's listening knows who you are, but just in case there's some new ears on the line, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, where you come from, what you've been up to, and what you do nowadays.
Um, well, my name is Smexxin in game,
Mm-hmm.
Nick otherwise. I've been playing World of Warcraft for I guess since BC, so however long that's been, 13, 14 years.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
been playing Warriors since the end of BC,
Okay.
and lately been branching out and playing a lot more classes the last couple expansions, but Warriors
Mm-hmm.
always been my main since then.
I hear you.
But I've been competing on Space Station Gaming the last couple tournament seasons.
Indeed. And before they picked you guys up, you called yourselves the boys, right?
The boys, yep.
Nice. Nice. And if I'm not mistaken, before that, you were on the method teams there for a while too, if I
I was,
remember.
yeah. I was on a team with Absurge and Wiz, and then before that, I was on a team with Cedo and Snuts and Bean.
Yeah. That's awesome. That must have been
hmm
so just your whole career. You've been playing, not just in game high ranking ladders, but also on the professional circuit for so many years. The
Yeah.
do people kind of turn to you now like as like one of the godfathers? Hey, Nick, I need a favor. Do they do any of that or?
I mean, I think it's probably mainly because of streaming, if anything. Once I started streaming, people kind of were able to watch and recognize it a little bit more. And now, kind of, they look to me towards information at least when
Hmm.
expansions hit for Warrior and other classes. But before that, no way.
Really
Yeah, I
interesting.
mean, there was a lot of god tier warriors beforehand, before I
True.
started streaming. There's
True.
Hoodrich and Vive and all those guys that stopped.
Yeah, and then I think Bajira, just with how prolific he is on, he's been streaming, and just his name is almost like a household name as well.
Yep.
I think people go to him as much as probably you nowadays. So
Yeah, Magnus too, I'd say. And there's a
yeah,
couple EU warriors as well. There's definitely a lot of different avenues for warrior information nowadays, which is awesome.
yeah, we need more warriors out there.
hmm
Uh, just a quick question: would you say everybody kind of has the same idea, or would you say that you consider some things more important than, let's say, Blizzo or Magnus? Just a,
Uh, I mean, we all kind of have our different play styles and strengths, but when it comes to like gearing and stuff,
Mhm.
it kind of varies sometimes. Like I think most other warriors are using a different legendary than I am right now, so
Oh,
I mean, that's a little bit different, right?
yeah.
So it kind of just depends on, because for me, I don't like to look towards other people on how they play the game. I like to kind of figure it out for myself.
I
So
understand.
sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it's right, but
Only way, one way to find out is when you go toe to toe, right?
right, yeah.
It's
And it seems to be working out so far. So
awesome. Well, speaking of what's been working for you, what's been working for you in game for the last couple weeks?
in terms of just playing
Yeah, like
warrior
what have you been
and
up to?
comps and whatnot,
Sure. Or
uh,
just what you've been up
I've
to?
been
You've
playing a
been
ton.
playing arena. You've been playing BGs. Have you just been doing Torghast and farming Soul Ash? Like what you been up to?
So I intended to play this expansion playing like 4 classes at least, if not more.
Oh wow.
Because when they when they stated what PvP gearing was going to be like, it got me pretty hyped. I want to
Mm-hmm.
be as versatile as I can for tournaments and whatnot. But when it came down to it, having to do Maw and Torghast and everything, it was just too much. And even though I play a ton right now, I still feel kind of overwhelmed by how much I have to do on multiple characters. So I've just narrowed it down to 3. But like I said, I've been playing. I love Shadowlands so far, so I've just been playing all day. And
Wow.
yeah, it's been a blast. Just doing arenas, Torghast, mythic raiding, all of it.
Nice. I remember I popped on your stream. You seem to focus more on your shaman for the raiding, and then your warrior. You do raiding and PvP though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How's the Great Vault working out for you? Have you had some good drops?
Uh, I mean, not terrible, but I'm not super lucky like some other people. I haven't
Okay,
got my weapon yet.
you haven't got your 233 weapon yet.
No, I'm still rocking the 184, unfortunately.
That's not bad.
Pretty unlucky.
Uh, are you doing are you doing two handed weapon? Are you dual wielding, or are you doing two handers?
Well, I'm playing arm still, so just the two-hander.
Okay.
I would like to play Fury, but I
Oh,
don't think I'll
sorry.
play it
Yeah,
until it gets massively
yeah.
buffed.
I totally just noobed it there for a second. I was thinking, and that's why I'm the Padawan. It's okay. All
It
right.
happens.
Yeah. Oh man. Uh, there's some days I feel like I'm like, yeah, I know this, I got it, and the other days I do that, and I, yeah. Anyway. All right. Cool. Yeah, I've um what's it? So I started my vacation time here. So on the weekend, I was able to finally like focus some serious amount of time, and so I got in, did a bunch of BGs, got some honor gear finally, and started ripping through some of Torghast layers and that. So I'm hoping I'll actually have a legendary here soon. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I feel so far behind. It's a bunch of like the guild I'm in. They started doing a family raid on Sunday nights, and even then I'm like, yeah, I just can't join it because I don't feel like I have the gear, or I wouldn't even be able to stand toe to toe with anything. So been doing that, and another thing I've been doing actually is for the past couple weeks I've been trying to farm the Thundering Cloud Serpent off of Hulon because I still never got it, and
I still don't have it either. I tried farming it for a bit, but I gave up.
it is soul crushing after a while. I'm at
Yeah.
I parked my Windwalker monk on the hill, and I have over 60 attempts now, according to the rarity tracker. And there's actually a group of us now. There's a hunter named Castoff, a I want to say another. There's a warrior there called Lorninthia, and then there's been a few other like horde tunes and other alliance tunes, and there's been in the last 2 weeks there's been two people that have gotten it already. So but it's kind of cool that like I log in every
I
hour and they're
I
like,
find it
hey
hilarious that Yeah, you remember people's names because you guys all just show up at the same time.
That's exactly. It's kind of cool though. So it's a little community of like,
No, it's awesome. I just think it's hilarious.
yeah. It's well, the crazy thing is this Hunter cast off. I was talking with them, and they were actually from another server. They actually server transferred over to Cenarian Circle because it's so low pop right now. There's like only two people there. They were saying how on their previous server, it was a high pop server, and there would still be like almost like a small raid team trying to farm Hulan. So that's
Jeez.
yeah. So a person actually shelled out the money to server transfer just to have a better shot at it, if that says anything. So
That is some dedication. I don't know if I would go that far.
I have to admit, they're more dedicated than I. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Well, hey, let's roll into the need, greed, and pass segment, and we'll see what your thoughts are on the choices that I have for you. If I
Okay.
can remember where I put that, I and there it is.
This likely won't be a clean fight, so keep your distance, eh?
All right, I think that went through. If not, I don't know. That's okay. Anyway, all right. So in this segment, I'm going to pose a scenario with three options related to WoW, and you, as the participant, as well as the chat room and listeners at home, you will be able to decide on which option you will need, which option you will greed, and which one you will pass on. So let the hilarity commence as we decide on what we will need, greed, and pass. All right. So today I decided to do something about Torghast, understanding that the devs have already made a few changes on Torghast to I guess they felt that there was a few things that were a bit too hard for people or whatever, so they made the first they made some changes, and there's been some interesting community feedback on what they thought of those, both good and bad, although I think majority of people seem to have enjoyed most of those changes. But so these are the options I'm going to pose to you. So I'd say, so one is increase the difficulty again on the floors, right? But with that, also provide more rewards. So it's more challenging, but you get more reward for those challenges. So,
Okay.
so basically revert what they changed, but also increase the rewards. Uh, the other options are nerf the first six levels even more so it doesn't take hours to clear those first six levels before you start getting into some of the higher difficulties and the higher rewards that everybody's seeking. And that also, now that we're several months into it, will also make Torghast more alt friendly. Ding ding. And last but not least is add a way through a vendor or through some sort of a choice where you can choose which of the instances you're going to be able to go through instead of having to stick to just whatever the random two are that are for the week. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just trying to think of what I would pass on.
All right. So I'll say them quickly again. So
Yep.
increase the floor difficulty, but give more rewards. So when you clear the six floors, you get more reward. Nerf the first six levels so that it doesn't take hours to get to, let's say, the level 8 or such, and that makes it definitely more alt friendly. And then beyond that, of course, the levels will get harder and more meaningful. And then last choice is add ways to be able to pick which instances you go through instead of just the random two per week.
Okay.
All right, go for it.
Uh, I think I would probably need the difficulty thing. I would like it to be harder, personally.
Yeah.
I like being able to do it quickly, but I mean, if they make it harder and they give it more rewards, maybe add more powers into it
Mm-hmm.
as you progress, like early on rather than later on, I think it could be way more fun. And for me personally, I think the game is the most fun when you go through content and you feel like you've earned certain things, whereas it's just like given to you through catch-up mechanics. So for me, that's like
Yeah.
definitely need.
All right.
And I think I would pass on the wing selection part, because I mean, you only really want that for legendaries, don't you? Like
I
specific
guess.
wings.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the selection thing wouldn't be terrible, but for me, it's just kind of not a super high priority, I guess.
Okay.
And then the last one is just greed, because like I said, I think just the difficulty thing is, and like the progression, feeling of progression and earning certain things is the
Mm-hmm.
most important.
All right. Cool. Well, I'll say, personally, I was going to need on the picking of the wings
Hmm.
because my thinking, yes, definitely. Then you can target to specific legendaries, if you know, especially instead of having to wait for the next time a legendary cycles through, especially if you're picking up an alt and you happen to
Yeah.
miss it or whatever. But
Yeah.
also, I found on a few of the wings, some of the bosses that they have in those wings have been difficult for me, and so I was
Hmm.
thinking definitely later on, if I wanted to be able, if I wanted to have the difficulty, then I could pick that. Or if I wanted, I'm like, I really don't like that wing because it has a chance of having boss whatever. So I could be able to pick one that maybe would be a bit easier, especially if I'm just trying to farm Soul Ash. Uh,
Makes sense.
then I was going to actually greed on the nerfing of the first 6 levels, just to So then when I go to pick up my alts again, very as you can tell, I'm talking about alts a lot here.
No, I completely get it. I totally understand it. I just, I
Yeah,
come from a different perspective because I play this
totally.
game for a living, so I can literally just sit down and play all day if I
Yeah.
want to.
I the other night I stayed up. It was like the second to last day of my work, and I decided I was going to try to do a wing of Torghast, and it was almost midnight by the time I was done, and I was just so frustrated. I was so tired. I just wanted to go to bed, but I was like, I'm almost done. I'm almost done, and I got to the boss, and I can't remember which one it was. He did like this AOE ring, and it would just kill me. I just couldn't move out fast enough on my death knight, and I was just so
Mm,
tired. I got frustrated. I just walked away from it. I actually just threw my body against him like until I ran out of my deaths, and then I of course I got kicked out of the instance or whatever. I'm like, okay, fine, and I just went to bed frustrated, like just dejected that I spent two I think it was 2 hours and about 15 minutes by the time I was done, and then I walked away with no soul ash. I'm just like,
yeah, I would be super frustrated if
yeah,
that happened too, to be honest. Because that actually did happen to me on my Shadow Priest the first week, because my gear was like pretty lacking. So
this might have been a gear issue.
yeah, I will say when you do beat it, it'll feel good though.
Yeah, I actually cleared it. I was able to get it clear through this
Oh,
morning
nice.
before the reset. So I was like,
See,
yes,
there you go. That's why
yeah,
you're in such a good mood.
uh, among other reasons.
Yeah.
Uh, But I'm not going to talk about that part. Okay. All right. Once again, out to the listeners, if you guys and gals have your choices of need, green, and pass, by all means, write them in or tweet us at technically_PvP. Write us technicallypvp@gmail.com. Love to hear your thoughts and ideas. All right, let's go into our upcoming WoW PvP events and see what is happening for those.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
Yes, get in there and fight. So we always have the usuals, the usual suspects. We got Dalaran Gaming is doing his 5v5 1v1 duels on the weekends. Keep an eye out for those. Best place I always find is he tweets them on twitter.com/Dalaran_arogue. And he streams those over on the YouTube gaming sphere. Flark is still doing his Synergy 3v3 tournaments. So by all means, you can go check those out. And the Race to World First is ongoing. So once again, Radar.io is doing live blogging of all the global coverage. Our own people at Warcraft Radio are covering all the news, and they actually are doing a live radio conversation each morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. So, and you can check that over at the warcraftradio.com site. And their live broadcast is on the radio station. It's also available on iTunes. The app is on iTunes and Android stores. So I think OTK is also doing their own roundtable and coverages. And so I think we got Big Dumb Gaming, they're streaming. Complexity Limit, they're streaming. Skyline is streaming over at the Do UTV still. Echo was streaming, but then if I'm not mistaken, they actually shut their stream off to do some secret progression. And then Pieces and Method are also streaming. So by all means, there's lots to choose from there. And apparently, it's been pretty hyped. Some people were thinking it was going to take longer than 2 weeks, but here we are, first reset, and limits already at 9 out of 10. That's have you been tracking any of that there, Nick?
I think a few of them are at 9 out of 10 right now. I've been watching a little bit, not like
Okay.
too much, but some of the bosses look really crazy. Like the last few
Yes.
look really fun. I can't wait to do it myself.
The council looked a little crazy, and what's the name of the guy with the tombstone strapped to his back? Is that Sledge Fist?
Sledge Fist, yeah.
Fist, yeah. He looked fun. He looked.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna be a crazy fight.
So you do heroic raid. You also do mythic raiding?
I do, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I do like LFR level, maybe family and friends. So well, we'll see how we do. Well, actually, I think the guild I'm in, they did a full clear of normal last week, if I'm not mistaken, or was it? No, it was before that. So I think that after a month in, and they did a full clear in normal, and they're moving into heroic. I think that kind of speaks a little bit of I think they graduated the difficulty appropriately from mythic to normal, which is good to know. Because because I would hate for them to have overly difficult raids especially for the normal. The normal shouldn't be that difficult, I think.
I actually think this raid was probably one of the harder first tier raids of any expansion, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, they've been there was only like, I want to say like 100 guilds or less that cleared heroic the first week, which is pretty nuts. Normally it's a couple hundred.
Now, is that because of the raid, or is that because of the gear disparity? Because gear
It's
has
probably
definitely
both.
been okay.
I think the raid itself is kind of difficult, but definitely the gear is a big deal too. Like not being able to get a ton of gear from Mythic Plus and everywhere else, like 2 boxes, weekly boxes.
Right. Yeah, that's I think there's some people that they're starting to already see the spread, where there's the people that have over 200 eye level, and then there's the people that are like struggling to get just to 180 because they just aren't getting the drops. So
Right.
I think the ability to spam mythic pluses now will help with that, and I think the way PvP gear is set up, definitely on the conquest side, I think there's some ability there where people will be able to fill in the spots. I don't know how people feel about that though. There's the hard PvEers that don't want a PvP. I wonder if they're going to be as vocal as PvPers were having to PvE before, like back in BFA. I wonder.
Yeah, that's really curious because I mean, you can get really, really, really good gear for PvE through PvP right now. Like you can immediately get super high item level gear because you can just upgrade it.
Exactly.
If you can somehow get to 2400, it's a big advantage.
Well, and that's for the rated stuff. The unrated stuff, you're still locked behind renown. So
yeah,
that's and maybe that's why they decided to do that. It kind of makes sense now. Now I'm looking at it in practice, but yeah, interesting. Well, we'll see what it looks like in the next couple of weeks, especially once people are able to farm more gear out of all those different instances and see maybe we'll see some more guilds breach the one, or get into that top 100 guilds for clearing heroic. So
yeah,
but let's get into why we're here and talk about the subject of analysis.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
Yes. All right, thank you very much, Millhouse. All right, So, Smex, Nick, this is why we're here. Is we're going to talk about Arms Warriors, and so I think first and foremost, as with Shadowlands, there was the great unpruning that happened on a whole bunch of specs, and so I guess more so. I haven't been playing my warrior yet this expansion, but warriors got a few abilities back, and there's also some changes with the global cooldowns and that. Do you want to run through a few of those, like what was added and what some of these changes that are impactful for PvP are?
Well, the biggest noteworthy changes would probably be Avatar being off GCD,
Mm-hmm.
Sweeping Strikes being a half GCD right now.
That's
Spell Reflect is not a duration anymore. It's just one spell,
yeah.
and it reduces the damage you take. So it's a little bit more timing and skill based again, which is
Mm-hmm.
cool. And then we actually get Piercing How baseline right now, which is awesome because it's basically Chains Device, which is notoriously good for PvP, but it's AoE on a 30-second cooldown, so
Nice.
pretty nuts.
That
And then
I missed that one.
also
Ooh.
Intervene as well is probably my favorite.
Intervene.
And then yeah, Intervene is pretty insane. It's like the best version of it ever as well, where you just redirect all attacks, ranged and melee, to yourself, whichever target you're intervening for 6 seconds, and it's a 30-second cooldown. So
So you
honestly, it's one of the most OP things about Warrior right now.
so that's like a bubble sack almost.
Yeah, it's really good. A lot of people are complaining about it.
Wow. If that's crazy. So you could like basically get, well, you're taking the damage, but I guess
Yeah,
if
but
you're
you can kind of offset the damage that you take with another thing they added this expansion, which is Ignore Pain, where you just use some of your rage and you get an absorb shield, essentially like a power word shield. So it's a
oh, that
good
is
good combination, and warriors are kind of self-sufficient again now. They don't necessarily heal,
wow.
but they just avoid, so you can kind of overextend at times and stay in longer than you would have been able to previous expansions.
Wow. Yeah, because if you didn't have a pocket healer there for a while, you're
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say
It's
you're
been a blast.
yeah, I can imagine. Awesome. Okay. And I'm sure like with Avatar being off GCD, that just makes it that much more sweet that when you go in for your go, you're not
Yeah.
you pop it and then do something immediately and not waiting.
Yeah, that's the one thing I always liked about Fury Warrior, is that it always felt super fluid, like you always had a button to press
Mhm.
every single time your global was off cooldown. So, and other classes feel like that as well, but Arms was definitely not like that in BFA, and even
Yeah.
in Legion it was not like that either. So now that it's kind of little less clunky because you play a certain spec where you don't have to, you get 2 charges of overpower,
Mhm.
so that don't cost rage. So you're basically just spamming globals all the time now. So it feels a lot more fluid, especially
Nice.
with the Avatar GCD change.
Nice. I can imagine. So, just one question. So
Hmm.
I remember when hamstring was put onto global cooldown.
Yeah.
Does that still feel clunky to you, or does it feel like it should be that it's okay that it's still on global cooldown, or would you think it should be off?
I mean,
Should you?
I can kind of understand it that it's on it right now because it's like warriors are already a super top tier class at the moment, and making their life even easier is probably not in the cards, at least for right now. But definitely, I think it's a huge quality of life improvement because all it does is slow. It doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
do damage, and the reason why they changed that in the first place in Legion was because you could proc your tactician that would reset your Colossus Smash in
Yep.
Legion because you would spend rage. And
Yes.
so it doesn't work like that anymore. It's not a big deal. So I'm surprised they haven't returned it back to that.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, maybe if Blizzard happens to be listening, maybe they'll do that.
I would love it. I would absolutely love that.
Indeed. I wouldn't mind it either. Especially because there's some classes that can just, well, like druids and shaman, they just do a shapeshift and it goes away, right?
Right, yeah.
It's like,
And
all right.
Windwalkers, their snare actually auto applies when it is falling off if you're close to the target, so they don't even have to
Wow.
press it again.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
And if anybody tries to say, yeah, but Windwalkers are not as OP as Arms Warriors right now, I would
Yep,
question that.
exactly.
I would question that.
Yep. And sub rogues automatically apply there, so.
Oh my gosh. All right. Let's talk roles. So usually we break this down talking about the damage dealers versus healers and the support roles that classes can bring. Obviously, like I said, this is Arms Warrior. Their whole reason for being there is damage. Um, and aside from some self-sustainment, they have no way of healing anybody really, right?
Mhm.
But let's talk support. So we already talked about what intervene can bring. What about the shouts, the battle shouts and the intimidate shouts? Are those still worthwhile or?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would say warrior is probably one of the higher support classes in the game
Oh yeah.
currently. Yeah, with all the new additions, because not only did they add intervene in, they also added an honor talent in that turns intervene into a spell reflect if you target someone with it.
Oh.
So it's almost like a little mass spell reflect for somebody, but targeted for your teammate.
Oh
So
wow.
that, along with, like you're saying, with intimidating shout, which is also a very flexible ability, can
Mm-hmm.
be used offensively or defensively. And then we still have the master and commander uh, honor talent that reduces the cooldown of rallying cry
Yeah.
and gives it more effect. But we also got a conduit in our soulbind tree that increases the duration and the health granted by rallying cry as well.
What?
So it's gonna be pretty insane. We're gonna have like a, let me see. I want to say it's like a 40 something percent rallying cry that lasts for like 15 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
So it's very, very good. And that's not even like, people don't even have that yet. So
Wow.
it's
That's
about
ins-
to get real crazy.
that's a lot. So
Yeah.
I can only imagine what that would feel like being on the enemy team and you get somebody down to 50% and then all of a sudden boom rallying cry hits and you see the
Right?
whole team go back up to 90%. You're like, oh,
And you can do that every minute.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's definitely just incredibly fun. And
Oh
it
yeah.
definitely fits the warrior flavor, I would say.
Oh yeah. That's always the warrior. The warrior's like in your face power with a
Yep.
sword, but then these shouts and cries that just support everybody. That's
Exactly.
raise everybody up. That's awesome.
Hmm.
And of course, I feel like we haven't really talked about shattering throw that though. That
Yeah.
seems
That's another one that came back.
oh
Definitely one of my favorite abilities, because if you're aware of the situation, you know that something's coming, like a bubble or a ice block or a monk cocoon, you can kind of pre-cast it and get it off instantly, and it's one of the most satisfying things. It feels so good to have that back.
oh my gosh. I yeah. That would be if you could time that right where it hits just after the cast goes off and then immediately block is gone or the bubble's gone. That's just
Yep.
so sweet. Oh,
And those classes notoriously are very difficult for warrior to deal with when
oh
we didn't
yeah.
have it. Like holy paladins or ret paladins and then mages, all of those classes are, having to worry about bop, and just it's a complete
Yep.
reset for them because you can't do anything about it.
Well,
That's
exactly.
gone.
How? Okay. This is probably going to trigger some people listening, but how does Shattering Throw and just Warrior in general feel against Prot Paladin?
It doesn't feel bad. I
Okay.
think a lot of people put a ton of hate on prop paladin, which is,
Yeah.
I would say is reasonably justified, but they don't realize that, or a lot of people don't realize that prop paladins got nerfed even further with how much damage they take this expansion. So they actually die really quickly, especially
Really?
as certain classes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's just a few cooldowns that you can't really kill through.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what they're called. I want to say it's like Ardent Defender or something,
Mm-hmm.
but as soon as you get through those, they kind of flop. So
It's just getting to
definitely
that
watch
spot.
out for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I can't say I've run into. I haven't played enough, or I haven't played any arena yet, so I haven't really run into the Prop Paladin issue yet. But I've seen enough on Twitter and people talking about it. Especially apparently there's like literally like a wall of prop paladins trying to get when you're trying to get through 1600 to 1800. Apparently,
I heard. Yeah.
it's
Especially in twos now.
yes.
It's kind of rampant.
Yeah, I've heard it's a bit demoralizing for people.
Yeah.
All right, and of course, War Banner always there, tried and true.
Yep.
Those things are handy. All right. Well then, let's get into the actual analysis here. Let's talk talents. All right. So, excuse me while I try to catch up to myself as I do this. So normally what we do is we will read off the different rows and then we'll talk about why and what. So here we are. So for the first row of warrior, we have your you get your war machine. So that's going to help your auto attacks generate 10% more rage. And then when you kill an enemy, you instantly generate 10 more rage and increases your movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds. That sounds pretty handy. That might be handier in battlegrounds and rated battlegrounds than arena. And then you have your sudden death, where your attacks have a chance to make your next execute cost no rage be usable on any target regardless of their health and deal damage as if you had just spent 40 rage. Oh yeah. And Skull Splitter, where you bash an enemy's skull, dealing 100% of your as attack power as physical damage, and it also generates 20 rage, and that's on a 21-second cooldown. So on this first row, which one would you suggest a fledgling warrior pick up?
It depends on what content you want to be doing. If we're talking arenas, then definitely sudden death, because execute is extremely powerful right now. And sometimes if you're real lucky, you can proc them back to back. And if you get 2 executes and even one of them crits back to back, you can hit someone for half of their health in 2 globals.
Oh man.
With all of your cooldowns up. So it's extremely potent.
Okay.
The other 2 are a little bit more PvE orientated, but even then sudden death is best in PvE as well. So
okay, I guess just with that ability to be able to pop off and execute with no rage cost is just awesome.
I would say War Machine's really good for leveling though, because you can kind of sprint around after you kill stuff.
I could see that. That's why I was thinking for a battleground as well, if you get off a kill. Although I guess
could be decent, yeah.
I guess it depends, because usually as a warrior you're going to be in the middle of the big team fight, so it's not like you have to go that far for the next enemy. So,
right.
All right.
Yeah.
How about on the next row then? We have double time, so increases the number of charges by a charge of 1. The number of charges on charge by 1, excuse me, and reduces the cooldown by 3 seconds. That's handy. It definitely lets you move around a bit more. We have impending victory, so instantly attack the target, causing 50% of attack power as damage and healing yourself for 30% of your maximum health. Killing an enemy that yields experience or honor resets the cooldown of impending victory. And Stormbolt, hurl your weapon at the enemy, causing 16% of attack power as physical damage and stunning them for 4 seconds.
Well, this tree's pretty self-explanatory with Stormbolt, I would say. It's just super strong to have an extra stun in your kit, and
on
it's so flexible.
Cooldown too,
on a 30-second cooldown as well, yeah.
That's crazy.
Especially in this fast-paced meta that we have nowadays, having a lockdown like that is just going to help you way more.
Yeah,
the double time is very, very nice, but I would say, especially if you're a Kyrian warrior and you have the Spear of Bastion, you can kind of lock them down in place for a couple seconds. Like, you can chain that with Stormbolt, and you have just like 8 seconds worth of uptime on somebody, which is really good.
Well, exactly. Especially if you have sudden death and you're chunking them down for 50% of their health on 2
exactly,
globals.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
And you can do that on 2 targets if you have sweeping strikes and you have a spear on both of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Warrior is a cleaving machine right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Mental note: if I go up to a game, if I'm in an arena with a warrior, don't stand next to my friend.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, next tier. We have Massacre, where Execute is now usable on targets below 35% of health instead of 25. Fervor, your Whirlwind also slams your primary target. And Rend, where you get to wound your target, causing 32% of your attack power as physical damage instantly. And then you have an additional bleed damage over 15 seconds equal to 133% of your attack power, and increases critical damage you deal on the enemy by 10%. Ooh, that's actually pretty.
Yeah,
So if you get a Rend and then you get the Execute, that would be pretty amazing.
it is. Yeah, they actually added that crit damage part onto Rend since last expansion. And
Yeah.
funny enough, in PvP, Rend was actually the go-to as the talent choice in that tier because it's the same tier as last expansion. And
Yeah.
now it's actually Massacre because Execute is just so powerful. One
Really?
thing, yeah, one thing to
Hmm.
note that they did change about Warriors, which is probably one of the bigger changes. They actually changed their mastery. So last expansion it was Deep Wounds, where you would apply a bleed every time you would Mortal Strike or Bladestorm,
Yep.
and the scaling part of it was the actual bleed, and it made it do more damage. And now they changed it so the bleed is still there, but the scaling part of it is like the old mastery from Warlords of Draenor, where it's just single target damage on the target, and it scales it up. So
Oh.
you can do way bigger hits with Mortal Strike and Execute. Most of
Mm-hmm.
my most of my breakdown after matches is all single target damage now, which is awesome feeling.
Yeah.
So being able to get those chunky executes all the time is what you're trying to aim for now, and Massacre just allows you to do that now.
Just even more. Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we actually have to since this is the start of the expansion, we have a lot less haste.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, what Warriors are doing is they're playing the Dreadnought talent at the very bottom,
Yep.
so that it kind of covers that rage issue that I was talking about before.
Okay.
But maybe later on in the expansion, when we get higher levels of haste, we might see a return to Rend.
Okay. Interesting. Huh. I always like that little like how stats and talents and all that kind of interweaves together. That's very I find that very interesting. Um,
Yeah,
and I remember
my
because
favorite part of this game, to be honest. I love building like that.
that's awesome. I Okay. I just found I was just kind of I'm thinking because Massacre, if Execute is going to be that chunky, I'm just wondering, even with haste, if just going more of a mastery build wouldn't be better, considering what you just went through and sticking with the Massacre then.
Yeah, I kind of been bouncing back and forth on it.
Hmm.
Um, there's a few things in PvE that you try to aim for, like you want to try to get 20% haste so that you can fit another Mortal Strike in to your global
Okay.
during Warbreaker. But also it makes the class feel way more fluid once you hit about 15% haste. And I was actually
Hmm.
thinking that I would do that, where I would just have kind of a mix. Just
Okay.
go for 15% haste and then go for War Mastery. Because the thing is, you want to have a decent level of haste so that you have enough rage flow for you to press your ignore pain a lot more in PvP at least.
That makes
So
sense.
if you're
Yeah.
getting targeted all the time, you have just so much more defense. And
Hmm.
if you're playing full mastery, you won't have that as much.
Okay. I, that makes me wonder then. I wish we could ask a dev every once in a while, be like, yeah, so obviously you designed this spec to have a certain amount of haste, but where were you thinking? But we never get that chance. It's just kind of like we figure it out on the way. It's
Yeah,
uh
I've always wanted them to go back to how Mortal Strike was designed before, where it would actually generate haste instead of cost haste, or sorry, generate rage instead
mhm.
of cost rage. And I feel like that would make the rotation feel way more fluid and less required to have haste in it.
Yeah. It I find with a lot of the classes nowadays, it's always the build something, spend something. They seem to all have that.
Yeah, yeah, they have
And
the builder spender now for
yeah,
sure.
and yeah, I know what you mean though. It's nothing's worse than being a rage starved warrior where you're just waiting to either get hit enough times you get rage to push a button or get enough auto attacks in that you can push something.
Right. That was me all of BFA.
Yeah. Wah wah. All right. Let's now we took that little side note there. Let's move on to the next tier, the level 35 tier, and talk about so you get Second Wind, where you restore 6% of your health every second when you have not taken damage for 5 seconds. I don't see that being an option in PvP.
Nope.
Bounding Stride. So reduce the cooldown of Heroic Leap by 15 seconds. And Heroic Leap now also increases your run speed by 70% for 3 seconds. That could be handy. Especially if you're doing flag running in PvP, that could be really handy. And then Defensive Stance, which is a 6-second cooldown, and a Defensive Combat State, which reduces all damage you take by 20%, and all damage you deal by 10% lasts until cancelled. So you deal 10% less damage, but you take 20% less damage. Now, that was like the only choice, if I remember correctly, from Legion. Is that and BFA? Is that still is it still like defensive stance period, or is there any option on that tier?
I think you could play Bounding Stride like you were saying in RBGs maybe if you're flag carrying,
Okay.
and maybe just some regular BGs, and maybe in certain scenarios you could play it in arena where you just don't have to worry about defense ever. But generally, I would say defensive stances is the play. Yeah.
Okay.
Even though it's actually different than what it states too in instance PvP.
Oh, really?
It's actually, yeah, it makes you deal 20% less damage instead of 10%. So
Oh, of
it's
course.
a little harder to deal with. And funny enough, if you're new to Warrior and you're trying to get better,
Mm-hmm.
I can almost guarantee you, like anybody out there, that you're probably not managing your stances well enough. Like you're just sitting in D stance too much defensive. I would say that's the biggest issue I see with Warriors
Mm-hmm.
playing. It's the biggest tip I can give you.
I may have forgotten about that button a few times when I was playing mine.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I can promise you that.
Okay, well at least I'm not that big of a noob sometimes. All right, or everybody, or just if everybody's a noob, does that still make you a noob, or does that just make you normal? Okay.
Yeah, I think normal.
All right, on to the next tier where we got collateral damage. So Sweeping Strike. When Sweeping Strikes ends, your next Whirlwind deals 25% increased damage for each ability used during the Sweeping Strikes that deal damaged a second target. Man, words are hard all of a sudden. Warbreaker, which replaces your Colossal Smash. It's a 45-second cooldown, and you smash the ground, shattering the armor of the enemies within 8 yards, dealing 180% of your attack power as physical damage, and increasing the damage you deal to them by 30% for 10 seconds. Ooh, that's all right. And then Cleave, which is a 6-second cooldown ability, strikes up to 5 enemies in front of you for 70% of attack power as physical damage, and inflicting deep wounds on them. Cleave will consume your overpower effect to deal increased damage. I think this is when you're talking. This is where Warbreaker comes in, right?
Yeah, Warbreaker is just hands down the best in this tier. I'd say the other ones are more PvE,
Mm-hmm.
and they definitely have their uses, but Warbreaker is just the go-to because you can get a little bit of burst damage on AoE targets using Warbreaker, and then also you have flexibility on what targets you want to hit if you can get a couple people with it. Whereas
Wow.
if you were to play one of the other ones, you wouldn't have that in your burst windows.
Yeah. Huh. And just like, well, because almost everything you do is physical damage, just shattering their armor, which then they take increased damage is just by far. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being able to cleave with sweeping strikes and blade storm and everything,
Mm-hmm.
if you can have multiple targets with that Colossus Smash debuff, essentially you just crush them. And
Wow.
if you were playing cleave or collateral damage, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. All right. Is there is there a time when you wouldn't be doing that? Like
Not in twos or threes at least, or BGs or anything
yeah.
that I can think of. Maybe like RBGs on Eye of the Storm or something. You could maybe make use out of cleave or collateral, but I would say Warbreaker is probably still better
Yeah, I think so too. Huh. All
because
right.
Warrior just has so much percentage based scaling now with Avatar and our Mastery and
Mhm.
Warbreaker that you can just get really big numbers. So
Interesting. Okay. All right, so Warbreaker it is. And then the next tier, where Avatar resides, you have In for the Kill. So your colossal Warbreaker or your Colossal Smash increases your haste by 10%, or by 20% if uh, Warbreaker any the target. Oh, sorry, if the target is below 20% and lasts for 10 seconds. Okay, so that has to tie directly into Warbreaker, I guess.
yep.
And then Avatar, it's a minute and a half cooldown. You transforms you into a Colossus for 20 seconds, increasing the damage, causing you to deal 20% increased damage and removing all roots and snares, and also generates 20 rage. And then Deadly Calm, which is a 1 minute cooldown, reduces the rage cost of your next 4 abilities by 100%. And passively, your maximum rage is also increased by 30. So, which is handy, uh, especially since you're generating, right, you're generating rage, and then a bunch of abilities cost no rage. That's pretty handy. But I think Avatar was always the go-to on this tier, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's really good. I actually started out this expansion playing In for the Kill a lot because
Oh
that
yeah.
was kind of the go-to last expansion. You could either pick Avatar or In for the Kill.
Mm-hmm.
But once I kind of became more apparent to me at least that Dreadnought had such a good use and good value to the point where you don't even need to get like super high haste. Um, I started kind of messing around with Avatar a little bit more because that's it's always been good and
Yeah.
it even got buffed since last expansion with it coming off GCD, and now that's just especially with how big of numbers we hit with Execute and Mortal Strike and everything now, just having that extra 20% is just absolutely insane. So
Wow.
definitely nowadays in PvP, it's Avatar.
Okay.
But the other two are good enough to hold up if you want to have those kind of playstyles. But
Okay.
you're probably gonna land more kills in PvP with Avatar.
So here's a question: when you go Avatar, do you have any concerns about getting hodged or getting incapacitated or something like that, and just negate your go? Is that a
Yeah,
concern? Okay.
it's not really a concern too much. You should be trying to kind of prepare for that kind of thing too. Like you don't want to just mindlessly press your all your offensive buttons when you know that they still have some kiting that they can do, or they have defensives that they could put on the target to where you just can't press anything on them anymore.
Okay.
But I mean, that's kind of always a concern with the warrior is like how much uptime are you going to have,
Yeah. All right.
That's definitely something you have to manage a lot as this class.
Well, I guess with the minute and a half cooldown, but no, it kind of turns that lines up with other people's walls too. So in CC, so I guess uh, yeah, you have to kind of juke the or get those out of the way if you're worried about that. Then so
Yeah,
I guess
and
okay.
it's not necessarily something that is as punishing as it was in previous expansions either, because you can nowadays you can just press your avatar
Mm-hmm.
and your warbreaker and then throw down your Kyrian spear and you have 4 seconds. They can't kite you or anything. And if you really want to, you can just blade storm on top of that as well, especially if you're playing the unhinged legendary. So
Yeah.
you're just unstoppable and they can't move.
Oh my gosh. And the unhinged that's the one that puts mortal strike on everybody when you whirlwind, right? Or when you blade storm.
When you blade storm, yeah, it
Yeah.
casts 2 mortal strikes during it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds that that's almost a Swifty macro right there. Just put it all in one shot and just
It
laugh.
is, yeah.
Oh my
There's a
gosh.
bunch of synergies with that too, in terms of like conduits, and it works with sweeping strikes as well. Like you can sweep 2 mortal strikes on people if they're close to each other.
Oh boy,
Yeah, it gets pretty nuts.
I can't imagine why people are upset about warriors right now. All right. Okay, last year. So aside from Dreadnought, which your overpower now has 2 charges and causes a seismic wave, dealing 46% of your attack power as damage, up to 5 enemies in a 10-yard line. Other than that, that's the one you're like that's the go-to, right?
Definitely, yeah.
All right. Why not anchor management? Where what's this? For arms, every 20 rage you spend reduces the remaining cooldown on Warbreaker and Bladestorm and Colossal Smash and Bladestorm by 1 second. Or Ravager, where replaces your Bladestorm. Oh, I think I just answered that one right there. Replaces Bladestorm, and you throw down your weapon at a target location. It chases nearby enemies, inflicting a bunch of attack powers, physical damage, and applying deep wounds up to 8 enemies in 12 seconds, and generates 7 rage every time it deals damage. So why not those two and only Dreadnought?
It kind of goes back to what I was saying about the start of an expansion when classes don't have enough haste.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Warriors in that scenario right now where if you were to play Anger Management or Ravager, they're not terrible by any means, but you're gonna find yourself being rage starved a lot, where you just can't press any buttons for a few seconds. And for me personally, not only is it more damage to just go Dreadnought, especially in cleave scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
because what you can do is if there's 2 targets stacking on top of each other and you press your sweeping strikes and you press overpower, both of those Dreadnought seismic waves will hit one target. So it'll shoot out and it'll hit one target and it'll kind of almost shotgun them. So it'll hit all at once, you know?
Okay.
So it'll do double the damage essentially. Um,
Wow.
but with
Okay.
anger management, I mean, you can get a lot more Warbreakers and Bladestorms, and that was actually the go-to in BFA.
Okay.
But I don't think that'll make a return for a while until we get a little bit more haste. Maybe closer to around like 25-30% haste. We might see it
Okay.
again.
Just because then you're
And Ravager is just kind of
yeah,
extra damage.
which is interesting because one, it replaces Bladestorm, which then I guess if it does that, does the legendary still work? And
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe it still works correctly, and you just automatically hit Mortal Strikes, but it also replaces Bladestorm, which is something that is
yeah.
very flexible nowadays for Warrior, where you have just a period of 5 seconds where you're unstoppable, and you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of avoid CC and roots and
Yep.
things, and allow you to have better uptime. And that's just a very valuable tool as well to lose. So most of the time, you don't want to go Ravager. I
Okay.
would probably go one of the other two.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Well then. Oh man. Okay. So now we got that all sorted out. So we kind of have our talent tree set up. Now of course we always have the PvP talents. It can run through. I'm not going to run through them all. I'll just say them quickly. So you got the death sentence, the demolition, disarm, duel, master and commander, which is the one you talked about earlier that buffs rallying cry.
Hmm.
Overwatch, Shadow of the Colossus, Sharpened Blade. I remember Sharpened Blade. That kicked butt. Storm of Destruction, and then War Banner. What's the go tos though? You only have 3 to choose from, and some of those are pretty juicy. Uh,
I'm finding myself playing Master and Commander every game.
okay.
It's just very, very valuable to have for every single class or every single comp. Um, I played Disarm versus certain classes like Sub Rogues and Warriors and DKs.
Okay.
Um, and then Storm of Destruction is really good against Cleaves. If you play against another comp that has 2 melee classes on it, it's really good. Or you can play Sharpened Blade. Sharpened Blade is also really good versus stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to have its use. And then the last two that I kind of swap between depending on what I'm playing are War Banner, which is really good versus any kind of comp that uses CC to win games.
Okay.
So mage comps and feral and rogue, those type of things, and hunter. Um, War Banner is going to be really good.
Yep.
Or you can play Overwatch. But the thing you got to think about with Overwatch is you kind of give up the ability to intervene your teammate and eat all of the melee and ranged attacks if you're using it as a spell reflect for your healer, because that's ideally what you want to be using it for. If you're playing against, say, like a mage feral druid in threes,
Mm-hmm.
you can use your Overwatch and you can intervene your healer right when a polymorph is being cast on him, and you can reflect the polymorph back to
Back
the
to the
mage.
mage.
But you won't be able to use that intervene anymore to use it on whatever the feral's hitting to stoke up the hits. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a you kind of trade something off for it, and it's not always the best to use versus certain things. You kind of
Yeah,
want the regular intervene.
I can see that. Although, if you're lucky enough to outplay that much, where then you just saved your healer from sitting as CC and
Yeah,
CC,
you might not need it. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
but you have to be able to get that off, right? Like if you miss
Yep.
that, the whole team's kind of screwed, right?
Yep. Luckily, intervene's a pretty big range too. It's a 25-yard range, so it's the same as charge.
Okay, that's yeah, an arena that's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Do you have to meet up? Does your character have to actually meet up with the friendly to apply Overwatch, or is it just by casting it the automatic that
Nope,
so it doesn't have to
just by
follow?
casting it.
Okay, so
Yeah,
then
you don't have to wait for the animation.
oh, okay, that's interesting. Because like if somebody rooted you along the way, or just happened to like the cast sequence worked out
Yep.
where you got stunned along the way, it still got off the intervene. Then okay,
Yep.
good to know. All right. All right. How many times have you asked this question in chat? What covenant should I play?
A lot at first, but nowadays it's kind of. I would say most people know that Carrion is the best for PvP for
Okay.
Warrior,
For warrior.
because that spear is incredibly good. And then
Mm,
you also get a good mastery buff every time you use it through one of the soulbind trees. So it just ends up being super good for Warrior.
okay.
But Knife Pay is also a good option because their stun thing that they throw down,
Oh,
um,
what's that one?
it can actually hit really hard. I've seen it hit upwards of like 14,000, which is 70% of someone's health or 60% of someone's health.
Oh wow. Oh, that's the ancient aftershock.
Right. Yep.
Oh wow. That does look tasty. Okay.
It's
Uh,
definitely very powerful.
what about Venthyr?
Venthyr is also really good. It's a little bit more flexible for PvE as well. I
Mm-hmm.
believe most warriors are going Venthyr for high-end PvE. So if you want to do both, Venthyr might be the play because it's not terrible by any means in PvP, but it's gonna just be more of like a DPS bot. You're not gonna have that same flexibility and utility that Kyrian offers because you can definitely use Spear offensively, and generally that's what you use it for
Okay.
Kyrian. But say you're in a match and there's two melee chasing down your healer, you can throw down your spear and they're gonna be stuck in it, and your healer can go behind a pillar and heal himself up. So
Okay.
it has that flexibility, whereas the other Covenant abilities don't really have that.
Yeah. They don't have the same lockdown. I can see
Right.
Dora Shadows having some pretty fun stuff to it, but being a
Oh
second
yeah, Door of Shadows is awesome too.
because it's one thing to trap them and then you can just beat on people for 4 seconds, but then with Dora Shadows, if somebody's getting away, you can just door to them and then you're still on them. So yeah,
Yep.
I can see that. I guess it makes, like I said, it's nice to have that trade off though, where if you give up Curian and go for Venthyr, at least because if you're doing PVE, then you're not completely um, incapacitated in PvP. Where like I know there's some classes or specs where it's it has like PvP is only one and PvE is like only this other one. There's no kind of pseudo in between because the ability is just so. Anyway, it's nice that a warrior has that option.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I said that right. I hope people are understanding what I'm trying to get across without sounding like a complete dick.
No, I get it. I'm glad that they kind of balanced out the covenants decently well. The only
Yeah.
thing is I kind of wish they would do something to Necrolord because that's thematically that's the one that I wanted to play through when I was questing and I was going through all those zones. I'm like, man, Necrolord is warrior and I want to play this, but unfortunately the ability just was kind of lacking.
Which the Conqueror's banner there, where you plant the banner
Yeah, the
and
Conqueror's banner, yeah, because you
why?
have to stand in it. It's immobile. People just run away from
Oh.
it.
Oh, it's only 15 yards.
Yeah, it's pretty small too.
That's pretty tiny. Yeah.
Yeah,
I have to admit, because I've been playing my Frost DK, so I went Necrolord and the Fleshcraft though that is so handy, especially when doing Torghast. Man, that thing is handy to have. So, I have to admit, like having that just pre-wall feels pretty good. So I can only
for
imagine
sure.
what that's like in PvP. But yeah, only a 15-yard banner. That's just yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, just compared to Kyrian, at least,
Hmm.
at least for now, Kyrian is just super, super good.
For sure. All right. Uh, what? So you're alluding to conduits before, and how some of them, um, they they all kind of work well together with the abilities in that. So what are the conduits that you would suggest for people?
Um, well, if you're wanting to go with a little bit more sustained damage, you can play Crash the Ramparts, which increases your overpower damage
Okay.
as your first potency. Or if you want to go with a more RNG burst potential type of conduit, and you're playing Unhinged Legendary, which casts the two Mortal Strikes when you Bladestorm,
Mm-hmm.
you can play the Mortal Combo one, which gives you a chance to trigger a second Mortal Strike. And
Oh,
those can trigger off of your Mortal Strikes you do from Unhinged. So
so now you can
it
get
just kind of
three
depends
mortals
on what
instead
you
of
want to
two.
play. Yeah,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
definitely, you can just randomly RNG some really crazy damage as Warrior right now with that combination,
Oh, that must feel so good when it happens. Oh,
for sure.
all right. So what about So there's also Merciless, Bone Grinder, and Ashen Juggernaut. I wrote those ones down. Are they any good, or I don't know what
I
they
mean,
are?
they're okay, but they're not necessarily PvP ones. I'd say
Okay.
the other two are the ones you want to for PvP.
Okay.
And for the finesse conduit,
Yep.
um, the rallying cry one's definitely the best one. The piercing howl one is pretty decent too in certain scenarios, but having that 1 minute rally added on to this conduit just makes it so good. Like I said, you can get upwards of like 45% rally or something when you get it, which
Wow.
is just crazy
Wow. Which is that the Inspiring Presence?
inspiring. Yep.
Okay. All right. And then what about for endurance? Does it matter?
You probably want to do the die by the sword one, the
Okay.
stalwart guardian,
Okay.
because it reduces the cooldown of your die by the sword, so you can get like a 1.5 minute die by the sword at like the lower rank, and then closer to a minute cooldown on die by the sword, which is just such an improvement from BFA. It was a 3 minute cooldown in BFA, so
Wow. That was
it
oh
definitely
boy.
makes Warriors defense just so much better. But also the ignore pain one is good too.
Okay. It's I think safeguard.
No, it's
Oh,
the brutal vitality
oh,
for endurance.
oh, sorry. Okay, I was on the wrong. Oh, shoot, didn't have that one written down. Okay, write that in now. All right. Um. Okay, and then legendaries. So you already mentioned Unhinged, which seems to be like the go-to first one. Would that be the
Yeah.
first one you recommend to for people, or
I would say it's between two for me. Because
okay,
I don't play unhinged actually. I play Sephuz's Proclamation for myself.
okay,
But unhinged is definitely a lot more damage oriented.
mm-hmm,
So if you want to go for the big aggressive type of playstyle and just be cranking out the most damage you possibly can. On easy mode, you can just do that one.
Okay.
But I think Sephuz's Proclamation, at least when you're playing with an orc, is really good because it reduces the incoming effectiveness of crowd control effects on you by 10%, and that
Oh
actually
no.
stacks
No
with the orc
way.
stun reduction. Yeah, so it makes
Ah.
it so stun duration is 30% less on you,
Oh
which
my
is
god.
awesome. But
Yeah.
it also gives you a ton of stats too. Gives you 80 to all secondary stats, which is like, I want to say it's like 2.5% verse in arena. So I mean, it's a little bit more damage reduction, and it's a little bit more burst
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit more haste. So it's gonna make you just overall tankier
Wow.
in this meta, while also giving you a little bit of damage, which at least at the higher end of PvP, you're gonna be playing against a lot of rogues,
Mm-hmm.
which are trying to stun lock you and kill you. And this legendary just helps me tremendously to
I
live through that.
I can I can imagine. I,
Especially since warrior has like or ignore pain now. You just come out of a stun and press ignore pain, and you're almost always fine.
mm-hmm. So I just noticed. So the increase to your secondary stats is when you successfully apply CC on an enemy.
Correct. And that can actually work off of a charge route as well. So
I was just wondering. So charge route,
yeah, so
hamstring, uh
kick, stormbolt, intimidating shout,
oh my
any of
gosh.
those. So it has really good uptime. It's gonna
Does
have almost 50% uptime
okay.
because it's up for 15 seconds and it procs every 30 seconds.
Wow. That's crazy.
Hmm.
I wonder does I guess the Kyrian ability doesn't actually work as a CC though, does it?
I'm not sure if tether counts as a CC.
Hmm.
I'd have to check it.
Makes you wonder. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Cephus, if you're an orc, unhinged otherwise for easy damage.
Yep.
What else? What else should warriors be making?
Um, After that, you can do the misshapen mirror, which is gonna give your closest teammate spell reflection, and it's also gonna make your spell reflect have double duration, so it's
Okay.
gonna last for 10 seconds, which is extremely nice to have versus certain spell cleaves, at least in 3v3.
Yeah.
So if you play versus like an Ellie Boomkin, and being able to just press your reflect and it's gonna put it up on your teammate, um, that's super nice to have because also you can stack that with the honor talent that we got, the Overwatch,
Mm-hmm.
where you give spell reflect when you intervene. So you essentially can give your teammates 2 reflects if you play that with the honor
Okay.
talent, which is really, really, really good versus certain comps. It's a bit more situational,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be nice to make as your like second or third legendary, but it's definitely nice to have.
Okay. And
And then for the last one, I would probably make, and this might be my second one that I'm gonna make. I'm not sure yet. Uh, I was gonna do the Leaper, which gives your heroic leap 2 additional charges,
okay.
so I could chase after Affliction Warlocks.
I was gonna
Cause
say,
I'm tired of them kiting me.
yeah. I was kind of wondering about that. Like, is it still that it? Because with all the abilities we've been going through, I haven't heard you say you've been having a hard time staying on target. So is it?
Not normally, no. I would say Affliction Warlock is the only class that does that,
Wow.
but I have to play against Chanimals in tournaments and on ladder, so this is gonna be my Chanimals legendary.
Fair enough. Is Channels going back to Affliction or is he staying Demo or not Demo Destro?
No, he's back to Affliction now.
Oh, is he? Wow.
Yep.
I know Maldiva's been really enjoying Affliction as well. So, huh?
It's definitely a lot better than it was before. Just infinitely
Yes,
better.
yes. All right. Okay. All right. So that makes a lot of sense. Um, we alluded to this earlier. Just to be clear, for stat priority, so mastery or sorry, haste, and then haste up to 20%, and then mastery, or
I'm
what's the
thinking probably you stack verse, as much verse as you possibly can,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm probably gonna go for like 15% haste and then mastery after that.
Okay. And then what? Crit after that?
Yeah, I think you can get away with if you're going full PvP gear. You can get away with having 0% crit now. I think
Really? Okay.
like
I
0 crit on your gear. Yeah.
I thought I thought crit was back to being valid or viable in PvP. Because
Yeah,
for the
it's
while
not
there it was
terrible.
halved, right? So you're only getting
Yeah,
half.
for BFA it was only 150%
Mm-hmm.
on a crit when it's normally 200% in at other places like PV.
Yeah.
But now it's at 175 is what I
Okay.
heard.
All right. So that's better. But
Yeah, it's definitely better for sure. But I think mastery or haste are gonna be more reliable stats. And
okay.
warrior's kind of more of that reliable class anyway. Like we don't really get a lot of extra stuff from critting
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like something like an Ellie shaman, which has a higher crit percentage
Yes.
when they crit.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Interesting. All right. I didn't realize crit would be that low value for a warrior, but that makes sense, especially if you're doing that with the mastery build and doing the sustained damage. It's just that makes a lot more sense. Okay.
I think maybe crit might have a little bit more value if you're playing Venthyr though, because condemn is very rage heavy. You're gonna find
Okay.
yourself like out of rage all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you auto attack and you crit with your auto attack, you get double the rage. So it's a little bit better rage sustain.
Okay. That's
But
a neat
I
synergy.
mean, you could just play full haste if you want to have more rage that way too. So
Yeah.
just kind of, I think every stat how it has its own um, value right now, where it's not terrible, and you could definitely play it. But for me, at least, I think 15% haste and then mastery is the play after verse, of course.
Of course. All right. Uh, comps. What are you playing with?
In threes, I've been playing a couple different comps. I've been playing a lot of Ret Warrior.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I've been playing some Warrior Shadow Priest, which
really?
is
Okay.
really good. And then I've been playing some Warrior Windwalker lately with my team.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
all of those comps are top tier. They're all super, super, super good.
You don't feel like it's a struggle to get the win?
No, I mean, not as much as BFA. BFA was a big struggle. I mean, nowadays I mean, the game is so fast paced now that your
Mm-hmm.
reactions have to be really, really quick for you to keep up. And you have to just be on your toes all the time. But I mean, I'm enjoying myself a lot, and I think Warriors the best it's been in probably since MOP.
All
It's
right.
one of the best classes in the game, I would say right now.
Now you're making me regret focusing on my DK.
I've
Uh,
heard that from a few people.
oh yeah. What about in twos? Is it just warrior and healer, or
um,
is it
yeah, you can play with a Ret or a prop paladin if you want to, but I would say I would say playing with the healer is your best bet, and
okay?
Holy Paladin, Resto Shaman are
Mm-hmm.
both really good, or you could play with a Discipline Priest. It's also pretty decent.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about disc being just so viable. This X pack. So it's
Yeah,
nice to hear.
super good.
Nice.
I mean, even Holy Priest is good too, to be honest with you, but nobody
Oh
plays
yeah.
Holy anymore. So
Yeah. What's up with that?
I don't
Hmm.
know.
They-
They've
they-
just been on the back burner for so long. They probably don't want to commit to it because you have to buy legendaries and stuff now for it.
Fair. Yeah.
Kind
That
of,
makes sense.
it's a little bit of a commitment.
Yeah. Just a touch.
Yeah.
Especially if you have to switch your covenants as well and other things. That's just
Yep.
all
Yep.
right.
Exactly.
Okay. Nick, magic question time.
Mhm.
This is the one thing you would change. So you're sitting down with Ian Hazakostas and he goes, Nick, whatever you want, we'll change it. What's the one thing you would change about Warrior?
About Warrior.
About Arms Warrior?
Um.
Sure.
hmm, Probably just hamstring off global would be for warrior specifically.
Oh.
But one thing I really think they should try to implement into the game more is
Hmm.
just buffing weak classes by small percentages every like 2 weeks or a week
Okay.
until the game feels better. Because that's one thing that they seem to neglect a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely a few classes that are kind of hanging back right now.
Yeah. I feel you there. There's been some great communication about that out by the content creators. I was just watching a video done by our friend Stoops
Yeah, I watched
talking
that
about
actually
that.
too.
Yeah, he did
Yep.
a really good job on that. And
Yeah, it was a good
I
video.
think he's right. Just do instead of doing these big swings, just do like okay, oh no, okay, no, just a little bit more, right? Rather than trying
Yeah.
to.
And
Okay.
I think especially like nerfing is not necessarily always the best play. I think buffing would be awesome because
Hmm.
that would make people want to play the game even more, you know? Maybe it's the spec that they've always wanted to play and it's just
Um,
bad right now and now they get to play it more.
maybe. I guess the one difficulty there is if they're buffing in PvP, and then you walk
Hmm.
out of a PvP, like so war mode off, or walk out of the rated instance, and suddenly you're back in the real world, and now you're struggling when you just felt like you went toe to toe against something, but now you're struggling to kill the boar. That seems that I guess that's the one thing I would say is hard. And if they buff in total, like so PVE, PvP, or whatever, there's always some interactions there that seem to. There's a point there where I guess that's that trying to find that fine line, because if they buff too much in PVE, then they have to nerf it in PVE. So then you'd be the opposite way where you're going toe to toe with a boss, and then you go into a PvP scenario and you're struggling to survive. You know what I mean? Like there's always these weird, and maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know, but
No, I think it's a valid point, but at this point in the game, they can definitely kind of separate the two nowadays. Like they
yes,
have different ways of making abilities hit a little bit harder in PvP and keeping them the same in PvE.
true.
So I think they could probably find a sweet spot. And I mean, even if you know, the character is a little bit less potent in PvE, say for example, I think the person that's playing that class is probably still happy that at least they're good in one thing, you know, instead of bad in everything. Like say a Fury
True.
Warrior,
Yeah. I
where
guess.
it's probably just better to nerf everything about them right now. But I mean,
Yeah.
I am a Fury Warrior, so
Yeah. Don't
I
nerf
guess
me,
I'm a little
please.
biased.
Yeah. Everybody's a little biased, I think.
Yeah,
Uh, and you're right. Yeah, definitely they have those individual tuning knobs, which makes it my concern less valid. You're right there. It's just always I think it's something that they struggle with is it where one transitions into the other and how that feels transiting and how, and I guess it's just making sure it feels the same. So, all right.
for sure.
You know, it sucks. I should not have brought up that hamstring thing at the beginning. You took it away from me. That was gonna be mine.
No, I swear there was like
Ah,
a few changes that I
yeah,
told I gave back into feedback that I really wanted to see happen for Warrior this expansion,
yeah.
and that was one of them. I really wanted to intervene back,
Hmm.
and I really wanted a hamstring off global. And I
Wow.
actually said something about shield barrier too, if you remember that from WAD. But I mean, that's essentially what ignore pain is. It's
Yeah.
like the same thing. So
Okay.
I pretty much got everything I wanted this expansion. It's been nice, except for hamstring
Nice.
off global.
Santa was good to you. Santa Ian.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh boy. So now I'm wondering what I want. Okay, actually, I got it. So there's in Torghast, there's an ability that I can get as a DK where if I death grip somebody, it will
Hmm.
take the weapon away from them, so it disarms them, and then the weapon will fight on my side.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That would be pretty cool to have in PvP as like an honor talent or
Yeah,
something.
that's what I'd like to see something like that implemented with the warrior, where uh, maybe when you disarm, it lets you dual wield that other weapon for however much time.
That would be pretty cool, to be honest.
Can you imagine if you disarmed the rogue and then their dagger that had their whatever poison on it? Now you're poisoning the rogue with their own weapon.
Oh, that's like whole different level of immersion. That would be crazy.
That would be okay. That's mine. Boom. Print it.
I'm down for that.
Right.
Sounds pretty cool to me.
I like it. All right. Well, let's now that we're done talking about Warrior, why don't we talk about some of the news in the PvP sphere, and then we'll wrap this up and let you get to, because you have a raid tonight, right?
I do, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get you out of here soon so you can prep for that. So into the news.
All right. Who ordered up an extra large can of whoop ass?
All right. So Flark Synergy tournaments, we talk about, he does them almost every weekend. These things are pretty awesome every Sunday. I think he had a small hiatus between our last show, but I know he had a tournament just on Sunday here, and I want to give a quick congrats to Blitz Sama, TM Glizzy, and Austin XO for winning that tournament and snagging $150 for doing so. That was actually pretty... I actually missed the tournament. I had to go back. I almost forgot about it. If have you ever heard about these tournaments there, Nick?
I think I've watched a little bit of one before, but no, I don't really watch it too much.
Okay.
It's like the dueling thing, right? Essentially?
No,
It's
this
like
one,
the 5v5 1v1?
no, this one is I'm not, he has some sort of a matchmaker AI or something or application, and what it is people just sign up without teams, and then he makes you a team based on your rating, your spec, and everything. And
okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a big free for all, and then people. So then you're having to overcome synergizing with your team, learning how and communicating while trying to succeed in a tournament.
That sounds pretty wild.
It is. It's pretty good. And then he casts it the whole time, which is pretty good. So it has quite. So if you're interested, and I'll say this to you as well as to the listeners, so over on the Synergy tournament or Synergy Discord, he announces it there. But on Sundays, all you have to do is keep an eye out in, I think it's in the custom, in the PvP custom LFG, and you'll see Synergy tournaments show up there, and then that's where you sign up.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Sunday
It's all in game?
Yep, it's all in game.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's live servers and everything. So so if you're missing that one legendary, or you happen to get a crappy vault that week, it is what it is. So. But yeah, and then you get to play some fun games in a tournament atmosphere, and maybe win some loot. So anyways, so hopefully the next one should be happening this Sunday. Let's see what else. So there is hotfixes, and then some more hotfixes, and then Nike tons of hotfixes after that. I have to admit the devs have been quite busy. I was actually really surprised the number of hotfixes considering it's Race to World first week. So I thought they were gonna ease off on them, but then it looks like they did some changes on the mythic abilities in the Castle of Nathria, just because there were some issues with those, such as like right now I'm looking at the Stone Generals, the Absorb Shield is nerfed by 10% in mythic. There's some other stuff in normal mode as well. So I find this really interesting. We'll see what this results in. I think this has to take the resets into account. So limit right now would be feeling these, but then like teams like Method and Aversion and that, they're going to have to wait until tomorrow when their reset gets pushed. Mm-hmm. So I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing that it was just that little too hard. It was harder than they intended. So I think otherwise for PvP though, there was, so honestly, I'm sure you heard about this, but they removed on twos, you used to start at 20% dampening and it just kept ticking after that. And now they removed that initial 20%. And so you start at 0, but it starts ticking immediately instead of at threes, or in threes where it starts at 5 minutes. And I'm guessing they did that because it's so fast paced, just to make twos a little bit more survival in the first minute. But how does it feel to you? I'm assuming you've played more than I have.
I mean, it's definitely slower than it was before. Like I was playing my shaman with the healer before, and the games felt pretty fast still and
Mm-hmm.
felt pretty good. And now I've just been playing with a ret pod, and I've been playing with vanguards lately.
Oh, cool.
And funny enough, we're actually number one on the twos ladder as the Ellie ret comp, just because healing is so good.
Yeah.
Like he can just keep me topped the whole time. Whereas
Wow.
before, if that changes live, I don't think we would do as well, So it kind of worked out for me playing the comp that I do, but
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely less enjoyable, I would say.
Okay.
I kind of hope that they revert that change.
I'm kind of hoping as well. It just kind of seems weird, especially in like you said, in the amount of off healing that there is, and especially in a 2v2 situation with DPS heals, they seem to go pretty deep at deep dampening as it is, or they used to at least. I'm wondering if they'll once gearing comes up and people start getting higher item levels and then the health pools get up there, maybe they'll revert that back. We'll see. Maybe that's part of those incremental changes that we're hoping for earlier.
Yeah, I think it was kind of weird because they said something about trying to keep the game fast paced
Yeah.
as opposed to BFA, but then they kind of went back on that and made the dampening change into. So maybe they'll just see now they have like more data on it and see that
Yeah.
the games are going much longer, and that's not necessarily what people want. So
Well, how long are your twos games going now, on average?
I mean, even as double DPS, they're going for 5 minutes or more, which
Oh,
is
really?
kind of crazy as double DPS.
Yeah. But that's because you have those off heals, though.
Yeah, that's because of healing, exactly, with ret.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I find arbitrary words like that. Like, we want to keep games faster paced. It's like, okay, but what's the minute target you're looking at? Is 5 minutes fast paced for you, or is 3 minutes fast paced for you?
Right? That would be
So
awesome to know what they're
yeah,
aiming for.
yeah, exactly. Makes me wonder if they're thinking like 5 is a good number. So
Yeah, could be.
all right. Let's hear what else happened. So one other thing, I guess, in Alterac Valley, the NPCs were not as strong as they should have been, and people were just steamrolling through the. I think somebody said that they were like 3 minute or 5 minute games. Like it's just a rush. It was
Oh
just
my
a rush to
gosh.
the end. Yeah, it was just a rush to the end. Whoever could get to the boss first and just nuke it.
That sounds like good honor farm, I guess.
I kind of regret that I didn't know about it until after the nerf. So apparently that happened, but no longer. They put in hotfix, and the NPCs are back to where they should be. So games are lasting an appropriate amount of length of time. And let's hear what else. Yeah, like I said, there's just a number of class tweaks. I'm not going to go through it overly since I know that it's already been out there. Like there's the rogues that got nerfed. There is, well, yeah, basically rogues. Sub rogues got heavily nerfed. But there's a bunch of information out there already. I know a bunch of people already communicated their thoughts on it, so no need to hash that out. Unless, is there anything specific to you, Nick, that jumped out in the tweaks and nerfs in PvP?
Not necessarily. I think it's more of just the fact that we haven't gotten more. I was kind of expecting a
Fair.
little bit more this Tuesday, but I
Yeah,
mean,
me too.
maybe they want like a 2 week type of testing before they do more changes or something.
Maybe.
But I mean, I'm kind of happy with it because I was dying to double sub rogue in twos instantly, and in threes they were
Yeah.
just killing everything in a cheap shot and like half a cheap shot. So I think that the changes were fine,
Okay.
personally.
Yeah, I remember seeing who was it now? There's I think it was Chaz. it was a video, and I think it was like three sub rogues, and he just flopped or something like that.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
yeah. I know. I have to say, seeing something with a 30% nerf on it seems like that's a really big number, but the fact that something was even live in game for a month before that, and that felt good that it was needed, that seems a little like, how did that even, why did it even launch like that? I don't know.
See, that's how I feel too. That's how I feel. It's like, man, they really had it a little bit off.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. And I wonder, so it makes me wonder what the kind of data was that they had off of the beta servers, and I'm sure like one of the arguments is like, well, how often were there people teamed up doing three sub rogues? It's like, okay,
It's true.
fair, but I mean, you were on the beta.
Yeah.
I had beta access. I was screwing around a little bit on there too, and it wasn't until I think the last 24 hours before it went live that they actually engaged rated PvP on there. Otherwise, it was just skirms, right?
Right.
So
Yep. And we were in full blue gear too.
yeah,
It was scaled up to like 217 or something, I think.
yeah,
But the thing is that um it doesn't have the best stats on the blue gear. You
no,
know, it has like random crit pieces and mastery pieces, so you couldn't actually min max the right stats.
exactly.
And then everybody also had their endurance conduits as well, which
Hmm.
they don't have right now. Some classes don't have.
True.
So I mean, things were a little bit different, but yeah.
Hmm. I don't know. It just seems, like I said, just going back, it seems weird that something like that made it all the way through live, and it's not until it was live on servers and became an issue, a visible issue, that was like, oh, we should do something about that.
Yeah.
That's anyway. All right. Well, hopefully, like you said, with more data, we'll see a few more of these outliers be brought into the center, both on the bottom and on the top. I wouldn't mind seeing some buffs, like you were alluding to earlier.
Yeah, I would be down for that. I think a lot of people would.
Indeed. Speaking of getting buffed, did you see the prize pool for the AWC and the MDI being announced?
I did, yeah. I'm super stoked.
That I should hope so. That's that's. Are you gonna be going for a piece of the pie?
Oh
That's,
yeah, I'm still playing with the same team that I did last year, the
oh,
Space
nice.
Station Gaming, so
That's awesome. You know,
I'm definitely super stoked for it to start up.
I was. Oh, I can. Yeah, me too. I am over the moon seeing these organizations stick around with teams over a whole year plus. It was always disheartening watching people get picked up for sponsorship just for like BlizzCon, and then
Hmm.
that was so disheartening. Seeing organizations stick around much longer than that is just, I'm just so happy about it. So
Yeah, me too.
awesome for
And
you
I think
guys.
I think Shadowlands will be a lot different too. I think we'll see a lot of more orgs come into WoW now,
I
which is
hope so.
awesome.
I really hope so. So, well, let's talk about Let's talk about the AWC and the MDI quickly, and the announcement that happened. So, obviously, I know I tweeted about it. There is a VOD a live broadcast actually done by the Blizzard team with it was Josh and David talking about and announcing these. So for the Arena World Cup to begin with, it starts. The first cup's on the 15th of January. That's like just around the corner. Uh,
Hmm.
and I'm assuming that's going to be on Tournament Realm. I'm hoping, because
We don't know yet. They haven't said anything about that part of it. I was kind of
yikes,
wondering the same thing.
yeah,
I imagine it will be, but I don't know like the extent of it. Like
mhm.
if we'll have everything unlocked and will everything be maxed out in terms of like conduits and legendaries and all that. So
I have a feeling it's
we'll
going to
see.
be like it was on the beta server, where you could just like have instantly full renown. You go in with some dust and get a legendary crafted, and I think it's
I
going to be
think it
like
might
that.
too, but at the same time, the last tournament that we played in BFA, like the last couple weeks of it, I guess,
Hmm.
they had it matched with life servers in terms of like how much corruption resistance you could have for your cloak and whatnot.
Okay.
So they might try to do the same thing where you have like the same renown levels as you do on live, and they just kind of increase it every week. But I don't
Oh,
know.
that'd
We'll
be
see.
yeah, yeah. Because I remember throughout 2020 and well throughout the BFA cups that they did, the Heart of Azeroth and the max level on the heart also increased as you guys went through the seasons. So okay, well it'll be interesting to see what happens. Hopefully, like I said, those open up. I think the sign up cutoffs are the 4th of January, if I remember correctly, from the links in. I'll have a link for this for the official announcement. It's over on the worldofwarcraft.com site, but you can sign up to the game battles there. And they also have free agent signups for both MDI and AWC. I saw there. So if you're listening and you're interested but you don't have a team and you're kind of curious what to do, just sign up as yourself and maybe or look for other people, and you can make a team out of people that are trying to also get into it. I think that's pretty awesome. So this is a neat one for AWC. I just want to talk about this. So it's going to be 4 cups that's going to go into the circuit, and then after the circuit's done, then it's going to go into season 1 finals, and then season 2 is going to be another circuit. So you're not going to have the first 4 cups, and then it's going to go into grand finals, which is going to happen in July and August. But in between those, in May, there's going to be the relegation cup, and that sounds really interesting. That's a new thing. So I don't know, how do you feel about that, Nick? The idea about having the bottom 2 teams from the season 1 circuit having to then fight through an open field of competitors to try to earn their way into the season 2 NA or EU circuit.
I think it's an awesome change personally. I think it'll be hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't just qualify automatically and then continue to qualify even if you're the last place team. I think you should have to kind of go through all of that. So
Okay.
for me personally, I think it's pretty cool.
I think it's awesome too. It's different. I was trying to imagine how this was going to look like. So the top 4 teams, let's say, they're automatically qualified to the circuit, and then they're qualifying back through the relegation cups alongside the bottom 2 teams. That, like, I'm just kind of wondering if the bottom 2 teams, if they're just going to be stuck being the bottom 2 teams regardless, or if they're actually, I guess with tuning and other changes, there's a possibility just class strengths, or they figure a way out that they could earn their way into the circuit again.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I would feel bad if a team end up being the bottom team of the NA circuit season 1, went through relegation cup, and then some dark horse knocked them out and ended up earning their way to the circuit. I think that'd be really awesome as a viewer, but it would feel bad if you're the team, you know?
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, it's a competition. So I would love to just see all the best teams make it through, because I want to play against the best teams, and I'm sure every other team wants to, you know?
Yeah. Well said. Maybe it's a good thing I'm not a spokesperson. All right. And then, let's hear. So there's the AWC is going to have a $900,000 prize pool in total. And I think that's also really important to point out, because if my memory is correct, it was only 580,000 last year, or this year, 2020. So that's a $320,000 increase in prize pooling, which I think is significant.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely pretty stoked about that.
Yes, well, I think so. It's $10,000 per cup, and then the circuits are going to be $160,000, with season 1 finals being a $200,000 prize pool, and the season 2 grand finals being a $300,000 prize pool. So that, I mean, not knowing what the actual prizing breakdown would be, but if you win every cup I would say a player could actually be completely sufficient, have a self-sufficient annual income just winning cups and tournaments. Do you would that be valid?
Yeah.
Or yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it probably depends on where you live, but
true,
definitely.
true. Yeah, I guess probably not living in downtown LA. That would be.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, the area of competition, the countries that can qualify, also got expanded. So should be pretty
I didn't know
interesting.
that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have to take a look at the rules again. I don't have them right on my fingertips, but I remember looking at it, and I was looking at the list of rules, the list of countries, and it seemed more than last time as well. So, all right, and then the Mythic Dungeon International. This one is pretty cool. If you paid attention to this one as well, or if you're going to try to compete in it, there, Nick.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Flat and simple. So this one, they're going to do 2 standalone seasons. There's a total of $750,000 prize pooling this time. New rule is going to be no class stacking. So every group has to have only one of each class, or can only have one. Yeah, they can't have 2 of the same class or more. And
It's probably good.
yes. Well, it was so when I was watching the last couple of years, it was one of the complaints was you'd have a group of 5, but there'd be like 2 rogues or 3 rogues or hunters, or depending on what the dungeon was, and that was a big complaint for people. The other complaint for people, which I found disingenuous, was people complaining that it was always the same. It'd be mirror comps, like people were always running the same comps into a dungeon, and I found that one was disingenuous. That it's speed running. Of course, you'd bring the best comps or the best classes to do a speed run. I think people are just really disappointed that it wasn't their class that they were seeing on the screen. But
Yeah.
I feel no matter what, people are going to have that argument of like, well, why I never see any holy pallies, or I never see any holy priests, because it's always going to be Mistweaver, because it's one of the most agile mobile healer classes. So I don't know.
I think that's just the better way to balance things anyway. Just make it so more classes are good, and then make it so you can't class stack anymore, and everybody will be happy.
One can hope. We'll see what happens.
I hope. Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, it's chat. We'll see what happens.
It's true.
I think the other part to this was, if I'm trying to find the line for it, but oh yeah, so before they used to have like a Western and Eastern hemisphere, and they were doing their own. Each hemisphere was kind of doing its own thing, and then there was like a global finals where the 2 came together. If I understand correctly, China is going to be its own program, and then for the rest of the world, it's all going to be a global playing field. So
It's cool.
Yeah, it's, Oceania, North America, Europe, Asia, wherever you're living, you're all going to be playing, speed running the same dungeons, and I guess time zone wise, that's really going to suck for some people. So we'll see how that looks. But otherwise, yeah, go at her. $10,000 per cup, or $300,000 for the grand finals. That sounds like a pretty good temptation. So to get up in the middle of the night and play some games. Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous too. They get to play on a global scale, because that's one of my favorite things about tournaments, is being able to play against all the European players or the
Right.
Chinese teams, Yeah. Because you never get to play against them otherwise.
I know. And that's what I loved about BlizzCon is, all of a sudden these Chinese teams would show up, and you're like, I have no idea who this team is.
Yep.
Oh man, I remember. I'm gonna botch it, but it was quite a few years ago. There's a BlizzCon where it was the Asia team, and the guy that was playing the hunter was just doing some amazing things I'd never seen a hunter do before, and it was just like it was such a wonderful experience just watching that tournament and watching what these players brought. So,
Oh yeah.
if that wasn't too obscure of a reference.
No, I love seeing new players like that are really good. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. I just as a professional player, how hard is that to react? Like, so it's one thing to watch it, but when you're in the arena against this team that you've never played against before, is it nerve wracking? Is it exciting? Like, what? How do you feel about that?
I think it's more excitement for me because there's like a blank slate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I literally can just give my first impression of myself and just be like, it like makes me challenge myself to be the very best that I can possibly be because they don't know any better, and even if they did, I would still try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I'm playing in tournaments, I always go extra, as much extra as I can.
All right, it makes sense. I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Why would you try to half-ass it when you can just try to
Yeah.
be the best? Makes
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess we'll talk about the last thing here, which we alluded to earlier. The race to world first is going on, and yes, you are correct. I just brought up the latest scoreboard from our friends over at WarcraftRadio.com, and so we have complexity limit and echo both sitting at 9 out of 10, and then pieces, big dumb guild, fat shark, method, and skyline are sitting at 8 out of 10, with a version sitting at 7 out of 10 kills. I just want to point out this. I think this is amazing, considering that Skyline, being a Chinese guild, started 2 days late, and they're 8 out of 10.
That is pretty good. Wouldn't it be insane if there was like an actual race between Limit and the Skyline Guild at
Well,
the very end?
that's just it. Like, I don't know when the Chinese reset is. It was either today or it's going to be tomorrow, right? But if they're 8 out of 10 and they do a full clear, gear up, and then you have your mythics, so you have your vault that popped, your mythic runs that you can do, then you have your heroic and mythic splits, or well, your heroic splits, and then you go into your mythics, and you have gear drops from that. I can only imagine where teams are going to be situated as they do another clear of the raid to get up to the end boss. It's possible to see if Skyline comes through and ends up taking world first after starting 2 days late. That would be insane.
That would be pretty hype for sure.
That would be. I think that it's possible. Is it doable? I don't know. Like, because while they're running through this, Limit's right there doing exactly the same thing, and they're powering through it all. So it'd be interesting to see. So I guess the one thing that was interesting as well is Echo turned off their stream, and I think what was it for their? Yeah, they turned off the stream for their second, the second last boss kill, because they felt it not fair that NA guilds would be getting the reset and seeing what their strategies were going into the final boss when the teams like Limit and such are going to be getting fresh runs. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they did that, but so be it. It is what it is. And that is that for the news. I guess, Nick, do you have any shout outs you want to give before we wrap the show up?
I don't know. Just my stream. Check out the stream if you guys want to
Yeah.
watch any warrior shaman stuff.
Where
I'm
can
thinking
they
about
find you?
doing a just twitch.tv/Smexxin
All right.
on Twitter or Twitch, and I'm actually thinking about doing some YouTube stuff soon too. So
Nice.
Yep.
All right. Well, there you go. I guess you're pretty responsive both in chats, on your Twitch chat and also on Twitter, right?
yeah,
So, all right. Okay,
definitely
cool.
answer every single question. So
Awesome. I like that. It's disheartening when you go into a person's chat and you try to talk to people or communicate with the person streaming, and they're not even paying attention to chat. It's
For sure, yeah.
it's a little hard. I get it though. I tried streaming for a while there, and it's hard to be able to focus on multiple things. Like, hats off to you for doing that, bud.
Yeah, it takes some mental multitasking for sure.
Indeed. Well, I guess the only shout out I'm going to give is out to the Warcraft Radio crew and to people who sign up on the Patreon. I want to thank everybody there who does that. And if you want, there's a bunch of special rewards that come from Patreon, and we just did a special Q&A over there. So if you are a Patreon, you're going to be able to see the video where I talk with the general manager, Ketra, and I totally just brain farted the other person's name. I can't believe I just did that. Oh my gosh. I am so horrible. EJ. Oh my gosh. It was EJ. I was trying to... anyway, EJ from Girls Gone WoW was on that. I can't believe I just brain farted her name. That is... I feel I am extremely embarrassed now. Anyways, yeah. So if you sign up to the Patreon for Warcraft Radio, you'll be able to see that video along with other Q&As they do with other people over there at warcraftradio.com. All right. Well, I guess... since you've already pimped yourself, I am going to pimp our stuff and just remind everybody that they can contact us directly at technically_PvP on Twitter or by email at technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can find us over at the Warcraft Radio Discord. We have a channel there where we talk PvP, and also there's channels for all the other shows that are under the Warcraft Radio umbrella. If you go over to the warcraftradio.com website, you'll find a podcast directory for us where we're listed as along with I think pretty much every single other Blizzard podcast that there is. And I'm going to remind people that there's a review system over there, so you can go over there and give us a review. Tell us what you think of the show. 1 star, 5 star, or anything in between. Love to hear what you people think about it. And if you're worried about language, go ahead and do it in whatever language you're comfortable. I know how to use Google Translate. All right. That's it for me. I think that's it for Nick. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll chat with you next time. Good night, everybody.